This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Healthcare professionals can lead their careers with LinkedIn. Discover jobs by specialty, preferred shifts, and even desired salary. From mental health therapists to radiology technicians, it's now faster and easier for healthcare professionals to find the right fit. Learn more at linkedin.com/healthcare. Side effects may include faster job placement, improved work-life balance, and increased career satisfaction.
The number one selling product of its kind with over 20 years of research and innovation. Botox Cosmetic, onabotulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
In golf, precision is everything, on and off the course. PGA of America chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business for smooth operations and seamless transactions. Together, we enhance ticketing and concessions for better fan experiences from gate to green. This is pro-level efficiency. This is PGA of America with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
Shopping is hard.
I can never find anything in my size.
I don't even know my size.
I buy my clothes the same place I buy my groceries.
There's a better way. Make it easy with Stitch Fix. Just share your size, style, budget, and done. Your personal stylist sends pieces picked just for you.
That was easy.
Stitch Fix. Online personal styling for everyone. Free shipping and returns. No subscription required. Get started today at stitchfix.com.
Come meet me at the Musial with Alan and Daniel. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. Everyone come gather round, listen to your favorite sound. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. We'll talk the games and all the rest, about the team that we love best. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. We're gonna talk about the Cardinals all night long.
Good morning and welcome into another edition of Meet Me at Musial. I'm your host, James Shopta at C70. And with me for the first time this year, it's the coach. It's Alan Medlock, a Medlock1 on the Twitters. Alan, good to have you back after a half a season. How you doing?
Good. Glad to be back. Excited about it. Yeah, I was mad to miss last weekend, but we had some personal stuff that I had to take care of, and I was hoping that we would be able to jump on it last week, but life gets in the way sometimes, and I'm full of energy and ready to go. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, life does tend to throw us some curveballs here and there. Before we get into the Cardinals and any kind of talk about the blogger day from last weekend that I went to, let's talk about the season real quick. We last we heard from you, it was right at the very beginning of the year. So how did things go this year, and why could they have been better?
Well, we were extremely young. I graduated 5 starters off the team, the 24 team. So we came into this not expecting a whole lot, playing in a district we have, and the ebbs and flows with us. I mean, when you lose the guys with experience, it hurts you a little bit. Mm-hmm. All that being said, we did set a record for wins in my time there. We really regrouped. It came together late. and we had a couple kids move in that I've never had before. That was a big plus for us. But we fought hard in our region. Yeah, weren't able to get out of it, but we competed well. And the one thing I'm most proud of is the culture is really, really coming together.
Mhm. Yeah, it's I mean, to be able to, and especially the situation that you're in, there is that risk, right, of a class that leaves and then you kind of start all over and you have to take some significant steps back. But it sounds like you're just continuing to move forward.
Yeah, as much as we expected a setback this year and to come out of where we to where we finished, yeah, we're really excited about where the future is going to lead us. We graduated 3, and this is my first freshman class that we graduated. One has signed on to play college football and baseball. It's Sterling in Kansas, and this was a kid that had never had a glove before, as he was as a freshman. I was able to coach the Tulsa area All-Stars at One Oak this past week. Just a lot of good things, a lot of positive momentum. It's a pretty good spot to be in right now, and I couldn't be happier with the kids that are showing up this summer. Summer league's been brutal just because this is a June rain I don't know if I've ever seen. I mean, it rains every day, so we've only been able to play one summer league game. But I will tell you, after we were eliminated, I talked to all the underclassmen. And I said, well, here's the thing. The opportunity is here. You're going to knock it down. So,
yeah. Oh, good. And, they say a prophet is without honor in his hometown, but that didn't apply to you. You got the chance to be honored back at the home fields this year, didn't you?
Yeah. You're trying to bring all of it out.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to break you down in the first few minutes. We got plenty of Cardinal talk to do. That'll get us sad enough right there.
Well, yes. I'll probably deserve to post some photos here in a little bit because I'll stay composed talking about the rest of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We better move on.
Okay. Well, we'll anybody that didn't know that, they got a chance to really celebrate Allen at his old home field, and it was very, very cool that they did that. And if you want to know more, ask Allen at some other point in time. We'll move on from that. And we'll talk a little bit before we get into the current stuff. We did have Blogger Day last week. Allen wasn't able to go this year. And it's, kind of thinking about it, I happened to find a picture. I think it's from 2017. I mean, it's not one of the earliest ones, but one that came up in my memories not too long ago. And looking at the turnover that we've had even since then, I think if you had been there would have been only 4 people in that picture that were still around. It's interesting. I mean, it's a new guard, and it's kind of fun to see. And I makes me feel older than I already do, especially when Kyle's trying to sing happy birthday to me throughout part of it. But Mo was Mo. And we've written about it. I've talked about it on Gateway. A lot of other podcasts have talked about it some, so probably people have a pretty good idea. But it felt like there was a lot of reflection questions, being that this is his last one. Talking a little bit about his history, what he's learned from, some of the highlights of his career. He also talked about this team and how excited he was about this team and how much he's enjoyed watching them. And, while also mentioning that the trade deadline is still, at that time, 2 months away, and a lot of things can change. And I think just this week we have seen that, right? That was Saturday that we talked to Mo. The Cardinals won a dramatic game against the Dodgers on that day, and they haven't won since. And I think the feeling around this team has shifted quite significantly over the past few days. And part of that is just we get wrapped up in the daily wins and losses, but things have not looked great over this week.
No. 5 in a row will always do that to you. They're not scoring a whole heck of a lot, which we kind of anticipated maybe an issue, in the off season. I know it's tough to boil down all of these things and to make excuses. I will say 100% that they are just a different team without Donovan.
Yeah.
I can. That's something I didn't anticipate saying in the first of the year. That he's a spark plug. He's a battler. You could tell that there's a missing piece right now. It doesn't necessarily make my worry any less, just because I thought the pitching was. I felt like the pitching in the first half of the season was overachieving a little bit. I kind of wonder about him coming back down to earth in a race that I think they're going to be in, but it doesn't look like the Cubs have hit that second gear yet, I guess you should say, to go on any losing streaks. So you wonder about this being a really poor time to go on a stretch, but almost expected after winning 12 of 13 at one point. I know the ebbs and flows of the season. I'm still hesitant to say that they're better than what we thought they might be, but I do think that the youthful energy is probably going to keep them in the race for probably most of the season. But I will tell you that the last stretch of games probably leads to some bit of anxiety.
Yeah, and David and I've talked about this on Gateway, I think, before. We talked about this team being, a 500 type team, but that means, it's probably it may still wind up that way. It's just going to have a lot of highs and a lot of lows. We've had the highs. May was an incredible run, right? And we've, like you said, the pitching staff was probably, well, I don't think probably, definitely pitching over its potential. The offense was clicking. Everything looked great. Now we've seen the flip side of that. We are seeing a little bit of pitching regression, I think. The Cardinals have lost, let's see, was it 3 of the last 4 series, and they've off to a bad start here in Milwaukee. So, you started to see, you know, even the pitchers like Sonny Gray last night looked great until that one inning, and he just kind of completely blew up. And Gray has been on a nice run, but even earlier in the year, it's not good when you have to have Sonny Gray be almost perfect just so you could hope to have a good week.
Yeah, that's those are always the troublesome games. I feel like with Gray, it's one. I worried about going through a bad stretch when you go into a 4 with Milwaukee. So now you walk out thinking, well, we're going to have to split at best because you can't see them winning 3. Now, they can surprise you because there's several things they've done this year that surprised me. Period. But yeah, you're right. You almost have your floor's low, and going in facing a highly touted rookie, you just knew last night was going to be trouble, and it kind of came out exactly like I thought it was going to last night. To be honest with you.
Yeah, any guy that's coming up with the idea that he can throw 100 miles an hour, you're probably in for it. And like you said, this offense is not clicking like it has at times. Kind of pulled up the stats here from the last 15 days, and there's, maybe it all. Donovan has hit. He's hit 190 over that stretch. Newt Bar's hit 128. I think Newt Bar may be the biggest. I agree with you on Donovan, and that having him right is a big thing.
Yes, especially in the leadoff spot.
Well, yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Newt Bar at the leadoff spot struggling is a problem, right? We've seen good things out of Mason Wynn over the last 15 games. He's hitting. Well, even he's not. He's hitting 232. It feels like every time I look up, Mason Wynn's getting a base hit. But even the last few days, he's not. And when you've got those kind of struggles at the top of the lineup, it becomes very difficult to sustain anything.
Yes, yeah, no table setters, and of course they don't have enough bang in the middle of the lineup to make up the difference. So when everything's clicking, they're a lot of fun to watch. Great base running team and timely hitting, and one of those things. The lack of power probably going to catch up with them at some point. But yeah, it's you have to get on base to score. And until recently, Scott wasn't doing any of those either. It's just one of those things to where we go through a season where there's the highs and the lows, and you and I have talked about this for multiple years now, to where we have them under the microscope, so we see so much more, and then when we're able to pull out to that. To the extended view, you see that, hey, that's just kind of how a baseball season goes. It's troublesome as Cardinals fans this year because the expectations were so low. and they exceeded those early. So you
Mhm.
just kind of wonder when the bottom's going to fall out on that. And I think that it makes a stretch like this even more so troublesome. And I've said this forever. I just don't want it to ruin my summer.
Mhm.
And I know that sounds selfish and sounds basically stupid, but I'm back to where they're appointment viewing for me,
Yeah.
and that's my summer. And I look forward to it. And it's a good for most people will probably be a good relaxing exercise. For me, it just gets that blood pumping, and let's just keep it going. Hopefully they get out of this.
Yeah, and I think, um that's what we want out of a season, right? I mean, if you're going to spend a whole summer watching this team, you want at the end of the night, more often than not, to be happy about the situation. And that means you're winning more than you lose. And the Cardinals are doing that still right now. And I mean, I guess the good thing is they piled up a little bit of a cushion. I don't, yeah, at least when you're looking at 500 record, right? To lose 5 in a row and they're still over 500, that's saying something. And you got to figure it's going to stop here pretty soon. Although maybe I should knock on some wood or something.
Yeah,
But yeah, I don't know, and I don't know that there's an obvious fix, right? I don't know. I don't know why we're seeing the drop offs. And maybe one thing if, like, okay, Newbar's not hitting, but the rest of the team is. But you've got 4 or 5 people in this lineup that have been doing well, that have just kind of hit a wall, and maybe that's the league making adjustments to whatever um, Brant Brown has done to this team, and now they got to readjust, or I don't know, but it's a little bit difficult when we're getting back or getting close to getting back to that those feelings that we had over the last couple of years,
yeah,
where if player X doesn't get a hit or doesn't do something, then you have to wait all the way around till they get back up, and we're not quite to that spot, but there are some struggles.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's it's funny how last year we talked a lot about how the Goldschmidt Arenado combo was probably one of their bigger issues. And then when you actually take that deeper dive, you realize that the expectation of Gorman and Walker were probably just as equally as troublesome.
Mhm.
So you have the start to this year when you have the Herrera and Donovan combo of really carrying them, a new bar hidden, and everything going in the right direction. Well, two of those problems are kind of still existing. One, of course, hurt, but everybody had seemed to temper the expectations a little bit to where you're like, okay, this may be who they are, and it's an exciting brand of baseball. And as the word gets out, and as those first round of adjustments are coming through, that's just you start seeing things like this, and
Mhm.
you just really hope that they get out of it a little bit, and that it's a time will tell. With this team though, that's I think that you and I could both probably say, hey, our expectations are tonight are low. Milwaukee's playing well. Toronto was playing extremely well when they came
Mhm.
in. It's one of those that you can probably pocket one. Would you be surprised if they came out and won, the Cardinals being the team to win 8-1 tonight? Last year I wouldn't have expected that. This year it wouldn't have surprised me if that happened.
Yeah, I mean, it probably wouldn't surprise me too much, because this is a very talented lineup, and if you hit the right matchup on the right day, and things start clicking, then yeah, I mean, they can win any game like that. I agree, it's a little bit different than it would have been in the past. And I don't feel like, I mean, last night was kind of rough, right? I mean, no hits until the 7th inning. Um, and just never really being in it, especially after Gray's big blow up
Oh
inning.
yeah.
Um, and that's one of the few ones, like Mo talked about at Blogger Day. This team has not had very many of those games where you just feel like they're completely out of it. Even there have been games where they've been down early, and you still feel like they're going to rally, and they have, right? I mean, we saw that this week against Toronto. They never quite got over the hump, or one time they did, and then Ryan Helsley gave it back. Um, but they made some games very interesting, right? And at the end. and that just didn't happen last night. And if you can, I mean, you're going to have games like that, and if you only have a handful of games where you feel like you're out of it, I think you're doing something pretty well. I mean,
Sure.
obviously, if you're not winning them all, it's still frustrating. I mean, a 6-1 means the same as a 10-9,
Yeah.
but for entertainment purposes, at least, it's better to feel like the team can come back.
Sure. And I've said that several times this year, and you and I had talked about it online and whatnot. But that's one difference you can see in this year's team than you had in last year's. There was a lot of, even when things were going well, it was expect the bottom to drop out quickly. This year, there's a lot of fight in them, and I do think that Scott's right on that. That it's a lot of youth, that it's a lot to prove, trying to get your footing in the big leagues, and just go out and battle. And it's made it an entertaining product, which arguably they haven't had in the last 3 years.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's been a lot more fun. I mean, I've actually been able to watch it, but it's been a lot more
Yeah.
fun to follow the team than it has been over the last couple of years because yeah, there were so many games where they would give up 2 or 3 runs in the first inning and you just said, "Meh, you know, this is going to be another one of those nights where they just, maybe they'll get a run late or something like that, but there's really not much you can expect out of them." And that's not been the case this year. So it has been fun to watch them. Um, that said, I mean, it doesn't take too much before you get into that, mindset, right? I mean, if they lose a few more games like this, I think it's going to be a little bit harder for us to hold on to that idea that they're going to be able to a team that can rally, and you start to think maybe this is just who they are now.
Yeah, well, and I think there's a lot of that feeling. That's and I'm not so certain. I don't want to say this, but I'm not so certain the Cubs just aren't that good too, and that's kind of concerning. The Milwaukee will play better at some point, and it's one of those to me now. You're just like, just stay in this as long as you can because you expect the worst or best, however you look at it, out of Chicago and Milwaukee, and you just stick around as long as you can and try to compete. And like I said, I thought Mo was funny. He hopes that they make it an interesting deadline,
Yeah.
which and the fact that I don't know whether they would do anything other than move people out, but still, it's the interest level for me is high, and I don't know if I can necessarily say the same about last year.
Yeah, definitely not by this time, and 2 years ago, of course, obviously
Oh
was
yeah.
really we were, trying to determine how bad it was gonna get, but we were already looking at that trade deadline. Um, yeah, and that is the thing, right? I mean, the Cardinals have played a ton of teams that have no relevance to their league, right? I mean, they've played the American League a lot. They've
Yeah.
played the Dodgers. And they're just now getting, this is the first series they've had against the Brewers. They've got the Reds coming up next week. And then they get their first shot at the Cubs
Yes.
in Busch. And I mean, I think that makes this series and then that Cubs series kind of important to come out and stake some sort of claim, right? I mean, if the Cardinals lose 3 or 4 here in Milwaukee, that's a tough thing. I mean, and it kind of makes you wonder, what this team is.
Yeah.
And it's a 4-game set with the Cubs next or a week from now. Um, hopefully that's a situation where you win. I mean, you got at least split. Hopefully you could win 3 or 4. But yeah, I agree. I mean, the Cubs have done their work. And I think I saw something at one point in time that the Cardinals may have had the easiest schedule the rest of the way, but the Cubs were almost exactly the same. They had a very similar, of the teams that they have left. So it's not like they've still got to go play all these hard teams and they've just been coasting. They've done what they need to do,
Yeah.
and it is difficult to imagine this team passing them. I hope it happens. But you know, to the fact that the Cardinals are even, in that wild card discussion is so much more than we expected by this time.
Sure. And I mean, everybody expected Pittsburgh to be better with their arms and Cincinnati to be better with their youth. And it's one of those that, and I know it's only June, but I would rather be a Cardinals fan than any of those right now. One
Oh
of
yeah.
those things, and I mean, you feel like you have a puncher's chance. And I mean, here we sit, and you know, they're still, neck and neck with Milwaukee.
Mhm.
And I'm happy with where things stand right now. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. That being said,
But you're right. I mean, it's the stretch gets tough.
yeah, and in the Central, I haven't really looked at the standings in a while. The Central's a little bit
Sure.
tighter than I thought it was. I mean, the Brewers passed the Cardinals last night, and they're half game up, but the Reds are just one game behind them.
Yeah.
So, you know, by tonight, they could be tied for third and into fourth by the end of the weekend if they're not careful. I
Yeah.
mean, they've got the gap on Pittsburgh, like you say. But you know, for the fact that they were in the wild card, earlier this, about this time last week, probably, then 3 games out is hard. But, if you lose 3 in a week, sometimes you can gain 3 a week, and
Sure.
a good hot streak will get them back in it. It does make, like Mo says, it makes the trade deadline. I mean, you just can't make decisions right now, right? I mean, I'm sure that, they're keeping an eye on, what they want to do if they buy and what they're going to do if they sell. But, right now, I think there's so much influx that it's really difficult to say because a 5-game winning streak and you're back in the buying situation.
Sure. And it's you're going to have some pitchers step up and really start locking things down. I mean, that will be that'll be the trick. And you hope that um the stretch without a day off doesn't kill them as well.
Yeah.
Especially when they're running on fumes as it is, and that's probably bothers me more than anything at this point. Sounds like Walker comes back before too long. I know there may be some eye rolls to that, but hey, this was a year about letting them take off as long as they can. Got to give him some credit for being a dang good right fielder too at this point.
Yeah.
So no, I mean I think we're all on the same page here that that as exciting things are, it it could take a turn for the worse really quickly.
Yeah, June is a tough month. I mean, and we knew that going into it. You're right. 2 days off the whole month. They've already had one of them. The other one comes Monday. Some harder teams. And just coming off of a May that was so good, you knew there was going to be some downside, some regression. But get to the end of June. You can get to the end of June within a couple of games of the wild card. I think then you're starting to think, okay, well, maybe and we talked about this. I talked to some while we were at the Blogger Day. I can't imagine the Cardinals, even in a best case scenario, doing anything more than a bullpen arm or a fifth starter, just because I don't think they have the assets, or the assets they have, they don't want to trade.
Well,
But
that's the curiosity. Go ahead, but that's
no,
the curious point to me.
yeah, I mean, I think, how much does that help? It can help some. There's no doubt about it, especially if you get a veteran arm in. But yeah, I just I don't imagine that they're going to want to, even if, Jordan Walker, or not Jordan Walker, I don't think they'd move him anyway. But, say Nolan Gorman got hot and he's hitting better as of late, he's still not going to have the value. And I don't think they want to trade him if they, don't have to.
Yeah, the one to me that I feel like, there's the Arenado talk, and we know that's going to go both ways. I think that he's probably a Cardinal now. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know why I feel that way. Helsley's the one to me that's interesting, because I even think that if you're in the middle of things, I think there may be a chance that they ship him out regardless. I don't know why I feel that way. I just think the variability of that role, and that there may be options to backfill. I almost think that with the advertising and the messaging that was sent in the offseason, that I think that there's a package that's going to be a major beneficial return to you with future implications. I feel like that's a move that they probably make.
I could see that. And I think it would be a good move to make. But I also think back to when the
The
Brewers
albatross,
yeah.
deal. I knew that's where you were going with
Well,
it.
and just the disruption in the clubhouse. And I think
Sure.
that this is a team that's, if they're in contention, especially a young team that doesn't necessarily I don't want to say doesn't understand the business of the game, but hasn't been around as much. They're expecting, hey, look, we've been good for the night. At least you stand pat, right, and say you are happy with what you've got. Or maybe you add. I think if you tried to trade a Helsley, I mean, even though it would probably be the best move, what kind of damage do you do to your team in that regard? I don't know. And that's something you factor. I mean, that's not something that has to overrule anything, but I do wonder about that. Now, if they slide far enough out, I think it's pretty clear. I think it's also the case that it depends on what the package is, right? I mean, Helsley has struggled a little bit.
Yeah.
If he's still not close to what he was last year, or even now he's got value. Don't get me wrong, but it could be the Cardinals are like, look, if we're not getting what we want out of this, well, I'll give him a qualifying offer at the end of the year and expect him to go somewhere else and get a draft pick out of it. And being that they're trying to build up the minor leagues, that may not be the worst thing they can have.
Sure. That's it's yeah, it's a situation to where you can see it going either way. I mean, it's one of those to where I think that would be a prudent move, and I agree with you on the since they're probably chemistry plus right now, probably won't happen for the same reasons about the Hader move. It was brazen of the Brewers, but they came out of it good, and that's you kind of it kind of makes you wonder, but you're right. The draft picks being what they are, which are coveted now, that could make it, that could be a big play in it. I don't know. I feel like they're more inclined to ship out than add at the deadline, and I think that may be from the messaging alone. But I'm not sure.
I that's probably true. I do think, like I said, listening to Mo talk about how excited he was about this, how much fun he had watching this team,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that, this is his last trade deadline. I think if there's a legitimate argument to be made for adding something, that they'll try to do that.
Yeah.
If they're
That's exciting.
5 or 6 games out, okay, yeah, we're seeing probably Helsley go and Matts go, and um, I don't think Nolan is. I think the contract's too much for him to be shipped off because he's not doing as. I mean, Nolan has brought it defensively all year long. I mean, he's made some amazing plays, but the bat's just not. It's got pop. It's still got it still has moments, but it's not as consistently. It's not a $300 million bat, I guess is what we're trying to say. And
Yeah.
and I don't know how much the Cardinals want to sell or give chip in on that to get some sort of lottery ticket back. So I think Nolan stays put. But yeah, you could see some of those arms maybe going if they think they've got the arms to cover it. And that's the other side, right? I mean, if they trade out a Helsley or trade out a Matts or something like that, they've got to be able to cover those innings. And it's still questionable whether they could. We saw under Granillo get his debut last night, which was great. I'm half afraid he gets sent back down today because of spending 2 innings out there. Hopefully not. But there's just not a lot of obvious arms ready to come up.
Yeah, that's and I think that we were all hoping that wouldn't be the issue this year, considering the Roby situation and Hintz, and we thought that those guys would be ready to go, and then of course Roberts with the arm injury, and I'm probably missing 10 names that probably deserve to come up before any of those guys. Those are just the ones that pop out whenever we talk about this. But yeah, we thought that depth wouldn't be an issue, that you'd get a lot of the same vanilla type arms, and I mean, just like every season goes, this is it's the troubling time.
Yeah, it's and there's just a lot of variability in it, which is, I mean, again, better than what we were 2 years ago when we were like, when can we start selling these guys off? And the thing is, this is a young team, right? I mean, it is, especially offensively, a very young team that aren't going anywhere, which is a good thing. I think that gives them a chance to, even if there's a trade, a couple of people get left at the end of it, sent out at the trade deadline. I don't know that this team just, crumbles down the stretch. I don't know that they would, you know, it's not like they're going to rebound or rally, but there are some situations where you could trade off and then just, have terrible August and September. I don't think that would happen with this team.
Yeah. I think that there's just enough positive energy, plenty of positive energy to overcome a lot of those things. So yeah, I'm in full agreement with you.
Yeah. So the Cardinals did beat the Dodgers, and it feels weird to kind of that's the one series they've won out of the last 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But I mean, does that mean anything? Does that mean something that they won that series even though they're losing to these other teams? Or is it just you just get excited about it and happy that it happened and then move on?
I gotta think. I feel like you have to take the positive momentum with positive momentum. It's one of those to where, man, their lineup is so deep, and you really quieted it, but they weren't hitting very well at the time. And so I think that I think that a team like this, you have to hang your hat on those series wins, and then you come in and get buzzsaw by the Blue Jays, who are extremely hot right now. And it's just one of those that I think this is a perfect example of the ebbs and flows of a season, to where we're seeing it more from the youth development more so now than we have in the past 5 or 10 years. And it's that I think that adds an excitement to the season as well.
Yeah, that's true. And I think it was interesting. The idea around the Blue Jays was they were going to come in and be a tough thing for the Cardinals because they made so much contact.
Yeah.
But the Cardinals don't strike anybody out. Everybody makes contact against the Cardinals. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know that was such a big thing. I mean, what do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, like that's going to be the situation with everybody. You're right. I know that I think you're running into more pro contact teams now than you have in the past. Just because I see the benefits of the athleticism based running and things like that. But yeah, you're right. To where you want to immediately pull back and be like, well, that's a bad matchup because they don't strike out much. But on the flip side, the Cardinals have a rotation of guys that don't strike many people out either. You're 100% right, and that worries you more because sometimes the ball's just out of your reach. That could be troublesome moving forward if luck's just not their way.
Yeah, and I think we've seen a little bit of that this week. We've seen some balls that maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago would have been caught that are now getting through the cracks. I think there's one, that hit off Nolan Gorman's glove yesterday. That was a tough play. But Donovan, maybe he makes that. Maybe it's a different position. Who knows? Everything went right pretty much in May, and it's very difficult to point to anything that's gone right in June.
Sure. It's how well did they play into June last year?
Well, last year it
went to about the break though, right? When they really caught fire last year.
Let's see. They started. I remember it was Mother's Day that they started that run, and they went for probably about a month. So you're probably getting about right now was about the time it started to cool down. I mean, they were still playing well, but they were kind of coasting a bit. And by the All-Star break, they were starting to drop out of things. Enough that obviously still enough that they made trades at the deadline but they were starting to show, I think, the cracks a little bit. But probably by this time last year or a little bit later, they were still playing pretty well.
Yeah, that's so. I just wonder about a June swoon a little bit with the youth. The playing every day. Time's going to tell. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't really know what else to say as far as it. That's just going to that's how we'll just have to live with it at this point because. I know that they exceeded expectations early. I think there's the thought now that they're going to match expectations, which may be a 4th place team. We don't know. I still kind of have high hopes that it kind of turns around and this will just be a 2 to 2.5 week run where, things just aren't going your way and, the ball isn't falling.
Yeah. Yeah. And it very well may be. Again, you're right. You have to say, and you make a good point about the fact that
Yeah.
this is a younger team that, like somebody pointed out, Newt Bar has been here for a little bit, but he's hardly ever been healthy this long in a year.
Yeah.
So he's got I think it was Dane Perry had that maybe in his birdie work. Maybe I don't exactly for sure where I read it, but he's got double the at bats that he normally has or plate appearances that he normally has at this time of year. And you do wonder, if that starts to add up. And some of these other guys that are maybe not quite used to the grind that they've, play here and there, and now they're taking on that major role.
Yeah.
And they, and may have just run into some matchups that didn't work for them too, right? I mean, even though they won that series against the Dodgers, it's not like they hit just incredibly well. And you know, Toronto had a good staff, although they were able to get to them a bit. I don't know. I mean, it is a team that is going to be in flux. It's not a team that we can, expected to win 100 games and just kind of cruise through it, and we're wondering what's all going on. This is not out of the realm of possibility for this team, right? It's just kind of what we expected would happen sometimes.
Yeah. That's it's well put. I think the concern is they probably played their best baseball. You and I talked about talked about that a lot. And I just for some reason I just don't believe it. I just feel like they have another couple runs in them, and I just feel I'm trying not to be overly optimistic, which I can be a lot of times, but I'm just positive that that I think that this youth movement's going to work, and I think that that we see some budding superstars on the deal too.
Yeah, I hope so. And I think that, it is interesting to know, Jordan Walker was starting to hit a little bit more. And you're right, his defense is significantly better than it was. But he was starting to get hot when he got hurt. And, if you can bring him back into this lineup, we've seen Nolan Gorman's hitting over 300 over the past 2 weeks with a little bit of power. If there can be those green shoots in there, then, if somebody else happens to catch on for a bit, you could see an offense that starts to look a little bit more like what we thought it was going to look like.
Sure. The and then when they're healthy, the lineup's deep. That's it's going to get it's a little exposed right now, but Contreras is who we thought he was going to be, which is fantastic. Herrera is more than what we thought, but youth's going to shine on that. There's going to be a lot of tough stretches, and there's going to be a lot of there are going to be stretches where you can't get him out. I feel like you're going to run into that with Wynn a little bit as well, and basically all around the lineup you can run into those things. So it's just I like the makeup of who they are. I like the rebirth of the athleticism, and I feel like you can build kind of that tent pole around Arenado of being the veteran leader and getting the best of what he's got left. Defensively, still, he's better now than he has been the past couple of years. I feel like defensively, he's been extremely good. And you know what? I will say this: Contreras doesn't get enough credit for two things. One, I think he's a stud at the plate.
Yep.
The second thing, I think he's been fantastic at first. But you know what gets overlooked a lot for me? And I know that he got picked last night. But if you remember back when in the big heyday of the Cubs team that was really, really good, you and I talked about how they were fantastic base runners. And you felt like they took advantage of every little mistake and every little window they could to add that extra base and to win the battle of free bases. I see why now. Because I think Contreras is a fantastic base runner. And I think that he really leads the way on a lot of that. And to see that some of the younger guys with the plus speed be able to do those things, that the future is pretty darn bright to me as far as the athleticism and to see what they can bring out. And I really think that he's kind of gotten, I don't know how to say it. I don't think he gets enough credit for the athletic things that he does, mainly because he plays two positions that are historically not as athletic as other spots on the field. Being a catcher and first baseman, but he's really exciting to watch to me. And that was one of those things that I think in the early struggles where you thought, hey, acclimating to the new city, all the all the speculation surrounding him moving out from behind the plate. Well, it's proven to work now, and I think that he's settled into where this is a plus plus for the club, and I think that he's a stud. Bottom line, and I mean I hope that a lot of the guys get to mimic the type of player he is because he's a heck of a lot better than I gave him credit for.
Yeah, he has. I mean, we know first base is not supposed to be, oh, anybody can play first base. But we also know that we saw Jose Martinez play there. And so not
Sure.
everybody really can play first base, at least with a, you know, decent, decent type of approach. But yeah, Contreras has been incredibly athletic around that. I absolutely agree with that. You don't think about that because he was a catcher and now a first baseman. But
Yeah.
you know, the drop off between him and from Paul Goldschmidt to him was not the drop off that we thought it was going to be
Completely
defensively.
agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's
And I,
that's that's incredible to be able to say that because Paul Goldschmidt is a Gold Glover that was known for his defense.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree with that. And, I think that to go even another angle on that, I feel like they are positioned, top of the league with the first base combination of Contreras and Burleson.
Mm.
They're in a good spot over there. And I feel like that has been a big part defensively of the upgrade, where we thought, hey, let's just see how this works out. But I mean, they're top of the league and they're fantastic, to be honest with you. I think infield defense.
Yeah, and I think we look at Nolan has played defense, like you said. He has had made great plays over the last couple of years, but I don't know that he's been as consistently good as he's been this season. And continuing to go into the stands and making good throws. Mason Wynn has been outstanding as well. But again, those guys sometimes are making remarkable plays that just get saved because Contreras can catch the ball, right? I mean,
Oh
there's
yeah,
been times
quite
that,
a bit.
that the play is just as good on the other end because, they're hurrying to get the ball off and it's not perfect. And he's able to stretch or jump or whatever the case may be to keep the ball and get the out. It's, we don't always look at that part. I think we tend to focus on, you know, who caught it and who's throwing it, but the catching it at first base is key, and Contreras has done a great job at that.
Yeah. I mean, he's been really good. I'm trying to think. There was a couple of short digs that he's had to make before that are always impressive because
Mm-hmm.
he's lived his life learning to block those, with
Yeah.
his body, and to be able to go out and get them like that is just a testament to how well of the work he's put in, and honestly, the coaching staff too.
Yeah, they've, for the fact he played, I think I saw like 9 innings at first base before this year. That's, that's pretty telling. Again, if we're going to just continue to praise Contreras, it's very, says so much, I think, about him that he's still so fired up about this team, even though the organization hasn't always treated him the best since he's been over here. But he's, very adamant about, being a Cardinal and very adamant about winning as a Cardinal. And I mean, for a guy that's only been here, this is his third season, that's pretty impressive, right? I mean, he didn't have, it's not like he grew up a Cardinal or anything like that. He doesn't have the deep roots, but, once he plants himself, he's staying.
Yeah, without a doubt, and definite buy-in from him, and I mean, we're just going to reap the benefits, I think.
Yeah. So, again, this is the first time we've had a chance to really talk to you about the season. And if we want to kind of look back a little bit over the first, couple of months, who has, I mean, besides some of the ones we've talked about, but is there anybody in particular that has stood out to you that maybe was more of a surprise than you thought?
You know, Donovan grows on me probably by the game. Just my type of player through and through. And it's funny. I felt like when he's a second, I think their defense is elite.
Yeah.
No offense to Gorman. I think he's such a, I don't know. He's such a great player. I love the everyday lineup. I was skeptical about it. I've never been a I don't want to say it like this, but like a true Newt Bar believer.
Mhm.
But now I kind of am, and I understand when he just athleticism when he's healthy, he's up there with the elites. Yeah, the everyday lineup I really like. I kind of worried about the catching situation for a while, but I'm pretty happy with it now. And honestly, I feel like the future is bright, and I have a really positive outlook on the things that I've seen so far. The ones that stand out to me is just the Contreras play at first and the Donovan leadership. You know, ability to hit third in the lineup. It's just he's an impressive player to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all, and I guess the only thing I would say is, in difference of that is if you're looking at the first half, the most surprising thing might be Jordan Walker's defense, right?
Well, that's a good
Um,
point, and I'm
you
a
know
Walker guy. Yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
I think he's been in line. I think his offensive numbers have not been what we thought they would be, maybe in line with
Unfor-
what we
yeah,
thought,
unfortunately, that's always going to be the dark shadow on anything he
Right.
does. But go ahead.
Right, and I mean, that's what he's there for. I mean,
Yeah,
so it's not unfair to say that he hasn't necessarily reached those. Although, again, the last couple of weeks he's started to maybe show that he's coming around, and he's still very young. But the the work that he put in to become not just passable in the outfield, which would have been a step up from what he has been, but to be, above average out there, I think is pretty remarkable. And either that's probably definitely a testament to him. I think it's probably also a testament to John Jay and how he's worked with the outfielders and things of that nature. I think we've seen some really good things we've seen good things out of Victor Scott. He needed to work on, some things out there, even though he's got the speed to make up for a lot of his mistakes. We've seen good outfield play, and I think John Jay should get a lot of credit for that.
sure. Yeah, there's a new energy with the coaching staff. It's one of those that you never want to hear me talk poorly of Willie McGee, but and I'm
Mhm.
not. It's just sometimes new voices make a difference, especially when it's younger players, and you can tell a real difference. I mean, at the plate, in the field. I mean, it's there's a lot of enthusiasm right now.
Yeah, that's a point I hadn't really thought about too much is the fact that, these guys probably saw John Jay and Daniel Descalso play, right? And they may know about Willie McGee. I mean, especially if they ever were a Cardinals fan or something. And I'm sure that, you get to know, what Willie McGee did and all that, but it's more history than, real life, I guess, to some degree. I mean, I don't wanna say that Willie wasn't reaching the younger guys because I think he was. I think
Sure.
I'm sure he was doing fine, but there is a different perspective from a guy that, like you said, is closer to your age, that you got to see growing up play ball, and know what he could do versus, watching, highlights or old footage of Willie McGee. So that is an interesting point, and it probably does help. And again, after a while, even the best voices get a little bit, rusty to some degree. It's like people
Sure.
start tuning them out because they've heard it. Sometimes you need that fresh voice.
Yeah, yeah, without a doubt. And I'm sure there is an element of energy and active, energy in some of the younger coaches. That's I've seen a couple videos of drills that Jay was running in the outfield, and they were highly creative, very active, very engaged. And I was like, those are impressive things, to be on top of that. And it was funny, he had the whole outfield group with him. And that's
Yeah.
that's always a testament to that the guys are putting in work and peer pressure is the best pressure, in those situations. And you have a feeling that this group is going to take off. The optimism that I have on a Walker situation is he going to start hitting whenever he figures out this position? And I have a
Mhm.
feeling that it's probably going to be a lot of relief on him whenever he starts fully believing in himself as an outfielder. And I think that'll be a testament to the plate because we've already seen that he's willing to put in the work to be good at one of them. You got to believe that he's willing and currently putting in the work to be good at the second part on the offensive part. And that's one of those things to where, I that wouldn't surprise me to see him reach his potential. And keep in mind, he's only 23 years old.
Yeah.
One of those things, and that's super exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's still a lot of time we get, and even with him and Nolan Gorman, there is that. It, it's prospect fatigue when before they make it up. It's probably something similar, right?
Oh yeah,
It's like, man, we've had, this is the third year and he's still not clicking. And how long does this, how long do you go? But again, 23, a guy that even Mo admitted in this last blogger thing, it probably, you know, got to the big leagues before he needed to, right? That he
sure,
shouldn't have. And
yeah,
we talked about that at the time. And it has probably not been linear for him, going up and
mhm.
down and figuring things out. But, it's still very, very much a possibility that you're looking at an all-star player at some point in time down the line. And I don't think there's any reason to necessarily throw him or necessarily Nolan Gorman. I mean, Gorman's another year. What, he's a year, maybe two farther down the road than Walker. I guess probably a year because I think he's hitting arbitration this year. And so you are getting a little closer to where you have to make a decision on him. But I mean, they're still young. I mean,
Yeah,
Gorman will turn, if he hasn't turned 25, he will this year. So it's there's still a little bit of time.
yeah. It's easy to forget that they're humans and that
Mhm.
they felt the pressure and the anxiety and the stress that everyone else in the organization has felt, and they've done it with with the uh, with the weight of expectation on their shoulders. Those
Yep.
that cannot have been easy. In the past few years, and that's one thing that for the longest time, and in the beginning of our podcast, I mean, we had those years to where it was next man up,
Yeah.
and it's next man up, and you contribute, and you're going to be a part of this. To where now it has turned into, in the past few years, next man up, and we're counting on you.
Yep.
And that would be tough, or we're relying on you is a better word,
Mhm.
and that would be difficult, extremely difficult for a young player with those kind of expectations. And not everybody answers the same way some of these other guys do. And think about it. I mean, Cherio was given a major contract before he played a big league
Mhm.
before he played a big league game, and there was a part of the season where he just wasn't very good.
Yeah.
Things happen, development happens. Development may be slower than with some guys than others, and it's one of those things. I mean, you know, they're men, not machines.
Yep.
It's not to steal a line, but I love it, and it's the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. When you were talking about the podcast Next Man Up, I thought you meant just of all of our guests that we've had, because it pretty much was that, right? Next Man Up, and
Well,
hope
yeah,
that it
I mean,
hope that
that's
it carries on, and
oh
it
well,
worked out pretty
I'm
well.
just telling you,
Yeah.
you'll probably have a dip in ratings this week. I mean, I get it, I get it. The weight of expectations on my shoulders is difficult.
Yeah, well, we had a good run of people. There's no doubt
Yeah.
about that, but it's always good to have you back in the
Well, I
seat. Is
appreciate
it?
it. So yeah, I love it, and I was ready to rock and roll this morning, and yeah, I mean, it's one of those to where this is always relaxing. I love talking baseball. I do it around the clock, and this is one where we just kind of get to tee off a little bit. So
Yep.
I appreciate all the fans we made out of this, and friends I made out of this.
Yep. Yep. It has been good. So before we wrap it for this week, is there anything that you want to touch on that we haven't yet, or anything that's kind of stood out that you might want to talk about?
I one thing that I have loved is and this is in recent memory. I may be wrong on this, as been in the past couple of weeks, but I love the fact that the Cardinals are winning games at home again
Yeah.
and engaging that fan base. And I understand that some of the big teams have come in have helped with attendance, but I feel like summer's going to be good for them. I think they've built in the early stages of building an exciting product, and that's one thing that I've really walked away from right now, thinking, hey, this is a lot of positive momentum. I mean, this could be the sunrise on what could be another really good run of Cardinals baseball with a bunch of really good guys, with a bunch of engaging guys, and hopefully this turns into a destination hotspot again. As far as a
Mhm.
fan, I think that we're going to try to make it up there probably the second week of July for a Washington and Atlanta series. I'm really looking forward to that. I hope that a lot of people start to feel the same way about the return to Busch, and it means a lot to me to see the crowd and to bring back a lot of memories about how it was, and I feel like we're close to that again.
22-14 at home, so that's that's helpful. This weekend, it now Friday night I was there and they announced attendance at like 40,000 and something. I don't think it was that high. That's obviously ticket spot, but it was pretty good, especially for the fact that it was a rain delay to start the game.
Sure.
It felt, it felt in the 30s, mid 30s, late early 30s, or 30, 31, 32 maybe. And that's significantly better than it was beginning of the year, right? And again, school's out. That was a Dodger series. There were a lot of Dodger blue in the stadium. I
Yeah.
know we'll get that. And we noticed at during the Blogger Day that we're in the suite, and usually the suites all around us are full. But there were at least 2 or 3 on one side and 2 or 3 on the other side next to us, like we were quarantined, which maybe we were.
Yeah.
But there were a lot. And I noticed the Friday night before, when we were walking in the stadium, walking around trying to get to the seats, and you could see there were a lot of the VIP or there was suites that were dark. And, that's, I feel like the regular buy a ticket, come to a game kind of fan is going to be there quicker than the turnaround to get, the expensive suites. And, of course, Cardinals would like the expensive seats to be filled, but
Sure.
if you can get people in the ballpark, that's the important thing. And that seems to be what they're doing right now. And, hopefully that will be the case. It's not going to be, standing room only like it was for so long, but, they're still going to so much better than so many other teams in the
Well, be thinking of a positive note to end on, so we could do that, because I've got a negative here. It's not necessarily in the Cardinals. There's just fan apathy in every sport. I'm just convinced, because there's just not a lot of engagement, and cable has done that. Streaming services have done that. I mean, I get it. I mean, the society we're in now is we want everything in the palm, in the palm of our hand, essentially. And that's affected sports. I mean, I say that because I see it day to day about how high school kids are just not engaged in a lot of the extracurricular stuff. I mean, they get it. I mean, and they're going to watch the highlights of every sport, but they don't get the basics of any sport, if that makes any sense. And that's just something we'll just have to overcome, and that's something that we've created. That's just where we are. So I know that it's easy for us to look as Cardinals fans and be like, man, that used to be packed. But I just don't know if any stadium's ever going to be packed like that again.
Well, and again, you add in the whole, financial aspect of it. I was not real bright, and Friday night bought a hot dog and a Coke at the ballpark, and it was $19, and it wasn't a very big hot dog. So, when you get that plus tickets plus parking plus
that's very true.
Like that, and then you multiply that by a family of 4, you're spending $300 to go to a ballpark, and that's when you can't do that all the time anymore. I mean, it's different if you're just going by yourself or something like that and get your tickets off StubHub, and you can make it work. But if you're trying to make it a family thing, which is how you get that next generation to go and do things, very
darn near impossible. Yeah.
So, and I don't know what the answer to that is, except for lowering prices. I mean, the fact that what is it? The Orioles have some sort of like value menu basically for concessions. Certain things are fairly cheap, like hot dogs and stuff like that. And maybe that catches on, and you see a little bit more of that. But if the Cardinals were looking for improvements to fan experience, which is one of the things they talked about, because they didn't think the product was going to be as good this year. That might have been a place to start rather than, fancying up the scoreboard or something of that nature.
Sure.
But anyway, well, even if we can't come up with a positive thing, we still have Rich Bray from Remembirds. He's got a clip. We've got a clip from him to finish up the show. So if you're depressed from listening to us,
perfect.
Stick around for Rich. He's going to talk about Joaquin Andujar. So there's that. But again, good to have Alan back. We'll be back at you probably next Friday morning. We'll be doing that for a while until the school year rolls back around. That's the plan, at least. So glad to have you all with us. And for Alan, I'm Daniel. Good night.
Good night.
He got him! Struck him out! Look at the scene on the field. McCarver, the first one. Now his infielders all over him. A new world's record of 17 strikeouts in one game.
Hi, everyone. Rich Bray here with a look back at the Cardinals' 1981 trade for Joaquin Andujar. Whitey Herzog was already on the search for pitching that season when Astros general manager Al Rosen called him and offered him Andujar in exchange for center fielder Tony Scott. Whitey was intrigued, but he wanted more information, so he called Astros manager Bill Verdone to find out why Andujar was available. Verdone, whose pitching staff already included Nolan Ryan, Vern Rule, J.R. Richard, and Joe Niekro, told Herzog that he didn't have the patience for Andujar's antics anymore. The breaking point had come when Andujar pitched on a Thursday. After the Astros were rained out on Friday and Saturday, Andujar showed up in Verdone's office on Sunday, insisting that he start that day's game. The other guys ain't even been out to the mound yet, and he thinks it's his turn, Verdone told Herzog. Whitey, I'm telling you, this guy is out of his mind. Cardinals pitching coach Hub Kittle, however, had coached Andujar in the Dominican Republic and assured Herzog that he could keep the right-hander in line. On June 7th, the Cardinals and Astros finalized the deal. Andujar went 6-1 with a 3.74 ERA the rest of the season, and that December, the Cardinals signed him to a 3-year contract. I decided to sign with the Cardinals again because I like Whitey Herzog and the people of St. Louis, Andujar said. All I want is to pitch and to help the Cardinals win the pennant. Andujar did exactly that in 1982, going 15-10 with a 2.47 ERA over 265 and 2/3 innings. In the World Series against the Brewers, he won both his starts, allowing just 2 earned runs over 13 1/3 innings. Along the way, Herzog figured out how to handle Andujar's explosive personality, including massaging his star pitcher's ego whenever he removed him from a game. I'd go to the hill, put my hand right on his shoulder, and say, "Hey, Goomba, great job. Give me the ball and I'll see you on Tuesday." "Okay, Whitey," he'd say with a big smile, "see you Tuesday." And he'd stride off to the showers like a proud son. It wasn't logical. Joaquin already knew he was pitching Tuesday. He knew he'd pitched great. But he liked to hear me tell him when he was pitching again. He liked to hear me tell him how good he was, Herzog said. The Cardinals manager used a similar strategy in the clubhouse. A son of a gun was almost always worked up about something, Herzog wrote in 1999. I almost never knew why he was pissed, and mostly had no desire to find out. I'd say, "Pissed, huh, Goomba? Come by my office at 5 o'clock and we'll talk about it." "Okay, Whitey," he'd say, and he'd stomp off mumbling something to himself. Well, 5 o'clock would roll around and I'd see him on his way out the door. I'd buttonhole him. "Hey, Goomba, want to talk?" He'd look at me like he barely knew who I was, think for a second, and then remember. "Oh, no thanks, Skip. I'm not mad anymore." And happy as a lark, he'd go home. If I just showed him I noticed, let him blow off some steam, and waited for him to cool down, we made a hell of a pair. Unfortunately, if Andujar's personality made him a ticking time bomb, he exploded in the 1985 World Series. After umpire Don Denkinger's infamous call contributed to the Cardinals' loss in Game 6, Denkinger was behind the plate when Herzog called on Andujar to appear in a mop-up relief role in Game 7. With the Royals about to win the World Series and the Cardinals' tension high, Andujar was ejected for arguing balls and strikes and had to be held back from physically attacking Denkinger. Embarrassed on the national stage, the Cardinals traded Andujar to the Athletics for Tim Conroy and Mike Heath that winter. Over 5 seasons in St. Louis, Andujar won 68 games with a 3.33 ERA and finished 4th in the Cy Young voting in both 1984 and 1985. For more Cardinals history, visit stlredbirds.com or follow me on Twitter at Remembirds, REMEMBIRDS.
Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go.